Isn't it, is there a way to get it to not highlight? Like, for instance, I was looking at this earlier, and
you had it once.
The entire time, you were looking at this earlier too, were you? Like, my text just randomly highlighted in random places. All right. All right, so you're using the same socket length stuff. Using the same accept stuff. Let's bring up the client.
What were you breaking on?
Okay, that should be the same. Here, we'll reference back. So right now I changed my server and my client some. Let's see. So I'm doing the server setup the same way you're doing.
Something with exclamation point stop sign in the corner.
Where? This? Yeah. Oh. Just that I had my server running, it was listening, and then it killed it. All right, so I'm listening on 127.0.0.1, AFNet, port 3000. Here's me creating the initial socket. This is on the server side. This was all seemingly working. Here's the socket length for the server. Here's me binding to the actual server address, this guy. And then the server side, I get warnings on this, I think. Are you doing yours the same way? You get warnings when you compile the...
I think there was some errors, but I just kind of
ignored them. Yeah. Just, I mean, these are both warnings, so it comes back. It's complaining about the... number 3, this guy tries to make an integer from a pointer without a cast. It's enabled by default, so it works, but it's still a warning. We could do a -W and turn off half the warnings if we want. So let's keep going here. Because I have it all connecting now, but the client isn't able to receive a message from the server, and it looks like it's blocking. Right, but I actually have our client talking to it now.
Oh, okay.
All right, which was where we were stuck last time. So, all right, so server's there. Server should be listening. We bind. Here's us listening on that. We say listening. We get an incoming connection. That should be where the client FD comes in. Then we should see client connected when this works. So we'll come down to this in a few minutes. So we'll come here. Here, let's just remove a.out. We'll rebuild it. Notice I've changed my directory structure a little bit. I created a folder called chat. Inside here I put a client and a server folder. And then I put our specific things in there. That way I didn't keep overwriting a.out for the both. If I was compiling them in the same directory, a.out would keep overwriting each other. Yeah, I know, but I wasn't. This is cleaner anyways. Yeah, you don't have to use a.out as your executable. You can name a different executable name, but whatever. So I think I should have an a.out now. I do. So there's our server listening. It's blocking. That all looks legit. Here's the client. So client's a lot simpler now than it was before. But I did bring in, oh wait, actually. We're not using, oh no, we're not using string len in here. All right, so same thing as before, but here's our server reply. So that's the message we should be receiving from the server. 127.0.0.1 AFNet 3000, creating our socket just like we did before. So this is a stream socket, but instead of accepting, we're connecting. So this is on the client side. We're connecting to socket FD. Here's our server, and then it's the size of server, which should be a actually that's something that's kind of interesting to me. So I think this guy builds without any errors. So this guy tries to connect right here. So this should be the thing that ultimately connects to the server that makes the servers accept to stop blocking. That should allow the server to ultimately return this right here, the client FD. In fact, why don't we go ahead and while we're at it, we'll do a %d client FD. Let's just see what piece of information we got from that. All right, so let's stop that. Oop. Rebuild, listening, come here. Some side effects for the terminal. So I have it in collaborative mode, or whatever. You see, that's interesting, that we're not getting warnings here, but we do get warnings over here related to we get it on bind here. So it's only on bind, not accept. Is bind different? We'll come back and check that here in a second. That might be the actual culprit. All right, so here's I compiled the client. Now I'm going to connect. This should keep this guy from make this guy stop blocking, and we should see the client connected with the client FD. So we'll go ahead and do that. We are connected. Here's the receive fail. This is the current error I'm getting where we're not actually receiving something back from the server. But here's the server. Oh. So it didn't actually. If I do telnet localhost 3000, that's interesting. Why wasn't the server actually listening?
Binding to the last variable, the address to the server side.
That could be a good question. Why shouldn't I be binding to the server?
I think you should be binding to the structure of socket address. Size of.
Yeah, this is the struct.
Yeah, server size. So.
Man bind takes
yeah,
this socket FD, the
Right.
socket address, and the length of that socket. So here's sock FD is my socket descriptor. The socket, so server is a sock address in,
Yep.
which is a sock address. So this is what I should be binding to.
But then you're binding to the server size.
Server size is a variable I have up here, right here. That's the length of server.
Okay.
Yeah, it's size of server. So you probably just had it as size of in here. I put it in a variable. So that should be binding correctly, but that's actually interesting. Maybe that's the. Did you actually test yours on Cloud9? And it didn't have a problem with 127.0.0.1.
They're binded to all, let's see. I think I'm binding to all open addresses. The IP address.
Let's look at
It's about halfway down. Under request. One more. There you go.
because I might be assuming
They
that
usually
Cloud9 is
that
exposing
out.
the local thing,
Yeah.
but it's not. Oh, just do this.
But I'm connecting to 127 on the client side. So
Yeah.
I can't imagine why that wouldn't work.
Yes, I'm getting connection refused here too. So let's assume that was not the issue. I should be able to bind directly to the now the new problem is why can't I even telnet to the port? Listen there, using AFINet, port 3000. Let's just try a different port. I wonder if that port's timed out or something. Oh, actually, we can do port. I would assume if they're virtualizing this that my local host is different than somebody else's local host. Yeah. That's probably why my client's not working. My chat client, I think, is set up correctly now, and I was wondering why it wasn't functioning, and now my server's not listening well. Switch it back to 3000. There's the address. Okay. If bind FD is less than 0, problem with binding. Oh, that explains a lot. So we're not actually binding correctly. That's why it's not listening correctly. Did you try running yours again right now? See if you're... Where's your my address? Yeah, this is the one thing. Let's just test it, see if it's that one line. This is something you have that I don't. Is memset. Oh.
I'm not hearing out on lines, but it doesn't look like lines talking to each other.
Server sign 0. And those are socket addresses, right? In yours? Oh, your socket address pointer. That's fine. So I need to change mine a little bit here. These should just be dots. The arrow is a pointer to a pointer. So his function over here is taking in a pointer to a socket address. That's why he's using the arrows inside of here. So this is, the arrow thing is equivalent of saying parenthesis my address star close parenthesis dot sign address. So it's keeping him from having to directly cast it to a pointer. Or mine is a local variable, so I'm not taking in it as a pointer. So I should be able to do this. Let's just see if this makes the bind work. So that's the one line that I see looking different between ours. Still same thing, problem with binding. And yours is binding, you're not getting the unable to bind?
No, I'm getting able to bind, but now I'm having other.
Here, let me try this any address thing. We're really exploring the modern day Linux POSIX socket library. That's what we're getting, the full featured support. Let's see, you were doing it here. What's that?
It's like, this is why we use chat servers they already have.
Well, this isn't actually a chat server problem. This is a trying to use traditional C libraries in a much more modern Linux library, which is probably only 5% of the problem. 95% of the problem is using it on a virtualized hosted Linux operating system, which has potentially security stuff set up on their network things. But I guess fun nonetheless. And I guess on the bright side, you're not getting homework assignments. So I mean, it's a roll the dice. Oh. Ah.
You get a shot or blood drawn.
Blood drawn. They took 26 vials.
Serious?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Wanted to see how many they could do before they made
No, this
it.
wasn't like donating blood. This was I went in for blood work and I had 3 different doctors put in orders for random stuff.
I demand blood.
Yeah, so I'm there, and so is my my person for my thyroid issues, my normal doctor, and then my autism person. So yeah, they just took a bunch of blood. The lady, she had to like go back and check to make sure it was right. Saying, "Oh, I gotta get me some more test tubes." She was pretty skilled. Looks not even bruised.
It will be.
You think?
I didn't get bruised.
She seemed to like be really. She's the lady I usually see, but like, I don't know. She seems skilled. Like she probably did this in some war at some point. Would be my guess. All right, so you're not getting a binding error. So let's see.
No, I can connect to it.
Okay. Well, that's problem number 1. Why am I getting a binding error? I mean, you're passing in as a pointer, but that shouldn't make a difference. All right, so I have a sock address called server, and you have a sock address called my address. Fine. You're creating your socket first. Shouldn't make any difference. Then you're setting my address dot sign family to AFINet. My address, or so server dot sign family to AFINet, and this dot is correct. This is equivalent to his. that arrow is because he has to dereference a pointer. Because he's taking his in as a pointer right here. What's this?
Wouldn't even let you build it.
No, I'm just saying from we're comparing apples to apples. You know, the mine's not wrong and his isn't wrong. These are the same, just because he has to dereference. Then we have sign port, H2, sign port, H2, my port, which is 3000. Here, we'll, just for the sake of argument, we'll put 3000 in there. Actually,
That'd be really funny.
for the sake of argument, let's put 4950 in there. Just to match his. In address any. So this is S address. In address, S address. Yeah, he had the in address any, which I just had in there. So we'll switch back to that. Just so we're completely identical. Okay. And he is a memset server dot sign 0 \0. I mean, this is a string termination character.
Yeah, just so you're not setting null variables.
But that shouldn't have anything to do with binding.
No.
That shouldn't fail binding.
No,
But
it would
regardless, I'm doing it. So server sign 0 \, that's fine. All right, and now tactically you're creating your socket before this, so let's just reorder it. I can't imagine that has anything to do with anything. So there's your socket. Let's make sure our socket is getting created correctly. So let's just do if it's equal to -1. Is that it? If sock FD is equal to -1, put S. There's halfway to the dark side using string.h. So this is like the newer kids version of printf. Is put S. Let's put string. So we'll say bad socket. All right, so let's make sure our socket is getting created correctly before we go any farther down the rabbit hole. Okay, just for the sake of argument. All right, socket seems to be getting created correctly. All right, do all that. I'm not doing any of this crap. I'll just steal that code. It's socket options. I can't imagine. Right, but is that preventing me from binding the first time for socket options?
That's a good question.
Set sock ops. Oh, op. Set sock op. Oh, we'll read this here in a second. Let's just see if that's the break. So there's the sock FD, use address, event, whatever. And here's his variable yes. Yeah, but I can't give it the address of 1. So, yeah, you can't give it the address of a literal, so you have to throw the literal inside of a variable, then give it the address of the variable. It's that has to do with the pass by value versus pass by reference. All right, so let's try just that. So sock FD, blah, blah, blah. It's all fine. I still can't believe this would be it. So I don't expect this to fix anything. Yeah.
See, the problem is that you're getting errors or warnings on your bind, and I'm not.
Okay, so then let's
I feel like there's
that's got to be it.
yeah.
All right, so argument 3 of bind makes integer from pointer with blah blah blah. So bind sock FD. Well, let's just look at your bind versus my bind.
Your server is an actual struct, and you're passing in the variable of the struct, whereas I'm just passing in the pointer. Because my address is the pointer. So you're passing in.
Where's your bind?
It should.
Here's your bind.
It should work theoretically.
Oh, actually, hold on. No. You're getting a pointer to it.
Right, and you're taking.
Oh, I'm giving it the address of it. It should be the same.
So it should be the same.
Yeah. But you're not getting build errors.
No. But it's essentially the same code. Just rewritten.
You're shooting warnings.
Well, no, you're not getting even warnings.
No.
So it must not like me putting address in here, which means I should be able to fix that. Oh, heck. Anything worth doing is worth doing right. So I'll see your pointer and we'll make my own pointer. Okay, so now I should be able to remove the ampersand from that. So now we should match. Yeah, makes integer from pointer. Let me look at your struct sock address. Where did your sock address come from? Size of, oh, I bet you that's it. You're not passing it the size of that. You're passing it size of struct sock address. The generic structure sock address, not the size of an individual sock address.
Oh, I think that.
Oh, okay. Well, heck, we're back to something different. Let me look at bind real quick. I think there's a misunderstanding there.
Yep, I could get yours to work if I changed everything to pointers and changed it to the size of struct sockets.
That's interesting. Why would I assume? Well, actually, no. It seems like a perfectly reasonable assumption.
Right. Well, I mean, if it's variable,
Why is the difference between the size of a generic sock address?
it's a struct. A struct is a struct.
Well, no,
No.
because I'm passing in.
What were you passing?
I'm filling in a sock address in struct, treating it as a standard sock address pointer, and then saying this is the size of a struct sock address, not the size of a struct sock address in, which are different. A sock address in is a superset of a sock address. It stores more things. Okay, so then this is the same issue down here. This is size of sock address on my connect, or my accept on this side. And then I can pass it the same thing on the server there, since I switched the server to be a pointer. So that didn't really change anything. It's this that's changed.
And the fact you don't need to build it.
Oh, do what?
And the fact that changing the pointers don't make you have to build.
All right. So now we're on the accept. Oh, that's interesting. Does accept take something different?
Should. Oh, yeah. That one takes the,
Oh.
that one
Bind takes the
yeah.
generic size of a sock address. Accept takes the actual size of her sock address in. That seems ridiculous.
It makes sense, but.
I don't know that it does. Explain it to me.
You're binding to a generic, and then you're accepting a certain type.
It still didn't work on the telnet, but at least we're. Hold on.
Are you
Let's.
connecting to the right port?
Probably not. What do I have it listed on? 4950 or something?
Yeah.
It's my server. 4950. Yeah. Which means that this probably would also work if I did my normal.
Yeah, it did.
Right. So now I need to look at accept. Oh, here, let's go back to just put in port here. I'm also interested, can I do this on the 127?
Should be able to, because you have the local loop back. Or you could do, I have to take a picture, actual ID.
There's a function, I think it's get inet address or get local inet address or something like that.
I have config and it tells you. Or are you talking
Well, I'm talking about
oh,
programmatically.
yeah.
Programmatically, you can ask for it. 3000. Okay, yeah, so 127 works. All right, but now I want to know where's my accept. Third parameter of accept. How is that different than the third parameter of bind? Man, accept. Sock length T pointer. Okay. And man bind. Oh, one's a pointer, one's not. Oh, but even then, that's the address length. That's the address length. No, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense while this one's a pointer and this one is not a pointer. It's just an int. So I'm fine with that, except for whoever wrote these should have been consistent.
So you bind to a Unix socket. You can bind to the socket _ UN for Unix. And then accepting probably is a new command that was written. And then that you bind to the internet socket.
Shouldn't the documentation be better than that?
Yeah, documentation on Stack Overflow.
Right, you don't like the predecessor to Google, the Unix man pages? All right. All right, so with that in mind then, should be able to listen there. Let's go to the client. Back to port. Oh, switch this to port. We know this works. This works. Technically, we're not doing that mem copy thing, but I don't think we need to.
I don't think you need to. It was just for text. You get weird characters if you didn't do that.
Or was it a Stack Overflow
Could be.
thing? It's like, I didn't actually write any of that chat server. Stack Overflow's documentation is awesome. I just did Stack Overflow Unix C chat server. I downloaded a zip file.
Stack Overflow is zip files now? Shows me.
Alright, so let's see. So that should be my socket. That's fine. Connect. Well, let's see which version. Connect would probably be the same as accept. Oh, except let's type in man connect. Sock length, address length, so it should be the same as what one would pass to the accept, which is the address of server side, and the address of server side is the server size. It's the address of size of server. So shouldn't this be an address? Oh wait, no, can't do that. Int server size is equal to this. Otherwise, we're relying on the auto typecasting. Server size, that.
Yeah, I think connect, you have it wrong. Again, I think you need to bind to the actual sock address again, rather than the full
Yeah.
the UX one.
So this was still an address, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the wrong one. You were binding to the full. Was it actually airing out?
So this is a third type?
No, it's the same one that you bind to. It's the same type that you bind to.
Well, here's connect. Looks like that. Man bind. Oh, it is the same. Okay, so connect and bind were written at the same time, but accept was written at that probably written by different people. That's just stupid. All right.
Well, maybe this was before networking. Before the internet.
Size of.
If they're writing the stuff to create sockets, then
That's very true. That is very true. That
Size of stock address or sock address, right?
Yeah.
That is just ridiculous. Oh, hold on. I may not have had the server running. Okay, server was running. So now our receive has failed. Let's look at the server here. So after we've connected, I have a message. I'm gonna, let's look at send for sockets here and make sure that that is a thing that exists and what kind of pointer to a squirrel we have to pass it. All right, send socket FD, char pointer, and the size, and then any flags. All right, that looks pretty straightforward. All right, so send is the same thing as write. It's just a wrapper for write, but allows you to pack flags in. So with that in mind, well, whatever. So CSC450 file descriptor, then our char pointer, then the length of it. Okay, looks pretty straightforward. So we're going to send to client FD. Well, that was probably an issue. Still an issue because I don't have it spelled right. The message, the blah, blah, blah. Okay, actually that probably was a server, and I bet you this works over Telnet now.
You should still be sending to the socket FD, right?
No, you're sending to the client, the connection that resulted as you opening the Oh, there's hello. Wow. Try campus. Somebody opened the beer. All right. So now we should be able to receive from the server. All right. This should work now. Let's rebuild the client. All right. Let's check the client here. Server FD is the result of our connect to sock FD, giving it the address of our server, the size of a sock address. Oh, here, let's see if it is. Maybe this was this is like the missing link. We're going to give it the size of a server. Let's see. Let's see if connect was actually written somewhere in the middle. So now we know our server is giving us good stuff. Why are we getting... Into server reply. Let's look at receive here. So receive should take in the file descriptor for our server, the result of our connect. Should take in the pointer, okay, and then a maximum length. Okay, here's our server reply. That's our string. Maximum length is 2000. Server FD was the result of our connect. Let's go ahead and do a %d here, comma, server FD. Make sure we have a legitimate file descriptor there. And then I actually suspect that this is actually working. but our test for it not working is not working. I bet you it's not less than 0. It's let's just see what we get there.
It should return the number of bytes received. So.
Well, well, that's what we would think. Are we listening here? We are now. Okay, well, we got crazy stuff. Not exactly what was sent, but so actually, probably it did fail. is the here, let me run this again real quick. I want to see that.
Oh, you're not printing it as a string. Printing the character.
Aren't I doing a put s?
Oh, is that good for you automatically?
Well, that's a theory. Yeah, see, we're getting a -1 here for we are connected. That's the FD of the server. That's right here. So the server FD is bad. So connect, I'm passing it the sock FD, which is this guy. Address, AF, blah, blah. Here, this will be funny. So watch this make the difference. A little Stack Overflow mem set. All right. Oh, that's right. We're gonna. The cool kids would do this. They would change this back to a pointer, then use arrows, because arrows are cool. Well, it's slower, because you're dereferencing a pointer.
Yeah, but like, come on. Looks cool.
All right. And then in our accept, look like that. Size of whatever, FT. Server's listening. Build. Oh, it's because it's not a sign in, is it? All right, well, I think we're getting pretty close, so expect a homework assignment over the weekend. We'll have to make up for the last 2 classes we didn't have homework. We haven't had classes in homework in 2 classes, have we?
Sure. I thought we've had class.
What?
I think we've had homework every single class or a quiz or something.
In here?
Yeah, I just don't think we need any homework.
Really?
You probably hit a threshold there. In your map set.
Oh, spoken like a true Trump supporter.